The whole thing has been a disaster, and they're still refusing to acknowledge that they've made mistakes. I don't get it. Matt Hancock said, I think it was earlier this week or end of last week, he said that when he was questioned on did we go into lockdown too late, which there's no denying it, we did. He said, oh, no, we went in on the 16th of March. And everyone knows when we went into lockdown. Everyone knows we went in on the 23rd of March. He was telling a blatant lie to make it sound like we'd gone into lockdown a week earlier. He must think I get this feeling from a lot of the actions of the government, but they think we are completely brain dead. How he can think that people won't know when we went into lockdown and will just simply say, we went in mid-March, it's okay. It's just ridiculous.
To be honest, coronavirus is an absolutely horrible thing. I'm not going to say coronavirus is a miracle that happened at the right time, because it isn't. And anyone who has had coronavirus, my heart is with them. And anyone who's lost family or friends through the coronavirus, I send my sympathy.
Yeah.
Boris Johnson, since the beginning of March, has been making daily announcements saying this is what we need to do to control the virus. And then I think it was a day after we went into lockdown, he came down with COVID-19 and he was hospitalized. Yeah. What rules was he not following to catch coronavirus? He's making up the rules here.
Well, we know there were pictures of him shaking hands when he went into a hospital, when he was doing the rounds in hospitals, sort of in late February, I think, when he specifically said to stop shaking hands and wash your hands and he was still shaking people's hands. They think it's one rule for them and one rule for everyone else. We saw that with Dominic Cummings. We've seen it with Matt Hancock in the Commons. In the House of Commons, he stood next to another MP and put his arm around their shoulder, completely flouting the rules. That's when it was still at 2 meters as well, when he did that.
Just a quick message for the Prime Minister. If you do happen to scroll across this video late at night on YouTube, again, hello, Prime Minister, if you're watching. I hope you're well-ish. Just a few questions. When you put the rules in place, why did you put them in place 4 months late? When you create any rules, why do you feel it appropriate for your cabinet and yourself not to follow those rules? Just because you're a Prime Minister doesn't make you immune from coronavirus, as he's found out. It is absolutely disgusting. He is not God. He is not immune from anything just because he is in charge of the country. And I say in charge of the country like this because the way he is running the country during this pandemic is absolutely diabolical. And as you said, a child could have done better.
Yeah, it's just common sense. If you asked a child, there's a horrible illness going around, what do you think would be a good idea to do to protect yourself? And they probably would have said early on, wash your hands and wear face masks and things like that. But it's taken the government 4 months, or even longer than that, to implement face masks. It's calamity.
And when he reopened schools and nurseries for particular age ranges, what completely baffled me is he opened nurseries which contain 1 to 4 year olds, 2 to 4 year olds, and they opened up the foundation classes in schools. Now that's completely baffling, because if you get a 2-year-old and send them into nursery, they're not going to think, oh, I need to stay away from this person. They're
No.
going to think, that's my best friend. I haven't seen them for 2 months. I'm going to give them a hug and I'm going to play toys with them. If you send a kid into foundation, they're going to think, oh, great, I get to see my friends again. We can play sand. We can play Play-Doh. Let's get our hands dirty.
Yeah.
It's a bloody farce.
I'm very interested to see that, because I have seen, I follow Boris Johnson on Twitter and stuff, and I always read the comments because I'm interested to see what people are saying. And there are people that are heavily still supporting Boris and saying you're doing a great job, and I'm just baffled, and I'm genuinely interested to hear what they think the government have done well in this pandemic. From my personal standpoint, I don't, whatever political standpoint you're at, whether you're left, whether you're right, I can't see how you can say that this has been, that our government have run this pandemic well. I just can't see it. There's no way you can argue it. Because I would say I'm fairly central on my views. I'm not really left or right, but I'm more inclined a bit to the right, and generally agree more with Conservatives than Labour, generally. So, just because I feel like there's a lot of tribalism going on, political tribalism, and people think because they voted for Boris Johnson, because they're right wing, they have to endorse and praise everything they do, even though it's completely wrong. And I'm sorry, but I'm calling them out. They have run this pandemic appallingly, and they need to recognise it, because it's important that they recognise it in order that if we have a second wave, we don't make the same mistakes. They know we've made mistakes. You can see that Boris Johnson the other day was asked, he was just like, I think we could have done things differently, a few things differently, which is basically he was rumbled and he knows that they buggered it up. But if they actually addressed it and said, yes, we made these issues, and this is what we're going to do about it, and this is our plan. There seems to be no plan for a second wave as far as I've seen. So if they actually acknowledged their mistakes and thought about how they're going to address it when it comes, because we are probably going to get a second wave in the winter, because we know that coronavirus likes cold conditions. So it's definitely going to blow up again. And we need reassurance that we're not going to make the same mistakes again and have a horrendous death toll and go back into lockdown. For the sake of the economy and everything, we need to. Sorry?
What confuses me is we've had 4 months of lockdown and it's been absolutely horrible. So many people have died. And the government's response is, oh, you can have money off of your next trip to your restaurant. Next trip to the restaurant. All they are worried about now is where the money is. They've lost money. Businesses have lost money. Yes, that's absolutely terrible. But let's worry about getting people back to full health and getting the country running again into either a new normal or the normal.
Well, they think that bringing in these face masks is going to help open up the economy, but it's not, because it's not. As much as they say it's mandatory, they can't police it. They would have to have a policeman in every single shop and restaurant to make sure that people were doing it, and it's not going to happen.
And if you're going to a restaurant, you don't
have to wear one.
You don't have to wear one. So you can quite easily spread the virus. You cough, germs go everywhere.
And in takeaways, this really rattled me as well. They said if the takeaway has seating and you sit down to have your meal, you don't have to wear one. But if you go up to the till and order, you have to wear a mask. For me, there's absolutely no difference between a waitress coming or a waiter coming over to your table. In fact, you'll be in closer proximity then. There's no difference between them coming over to take an order at your table than you going up to the till to put your order in. So I don't get it. I don't understand these little, woolly problems in the rules. It just doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense. I just wish that they just eradicated it like New Zealand, and we didn't have to have any of this nonsense, because it is nonsense.
It is.
And our economy is in a horrendous mess. And I'm worried for my job security. And this build strategy for me just isn't washing with me at all, because he's trying to create new jobs in the anticipation that a lot of people are going to lose their jobs, where he should be focusing on trying to save the jobs that people are in, rather than creating a load of construction jobs where people might not have the skills. It's just pointless